This is Heather Stang, author of Mindfulness and Grief. During this grief meditation, you will have the opportunity to explore your grief without becoming grief itself. And the technique we'll be using is anchoring our experience into the body. So while there might be times where you feel like you're about to get carried away with pain or suffering, you'll simply remind yourself that you can come back to your breath. That's going to be your anchor so that you can mindfully experience what grief is feeling like in your body and in your emotions. It's important to be able to make space for our grief when we've experienced a great loss, because grief is an artifact of love. There's no need to deny that you're feeling the way you're feeling. And in fact, for most people, trying to ignore or push away or run from the feelings can actually complicate grief. But the idea of skillful means is one that is prevalent in Buddhist and meditation practices, and that concept is that not every practice is appropriate for all times. So if you're feeling particularly vulnerable and tender, you might want to try a different type of meditation right now. But if you're ready to explore your grief, then let's begin. Start by finding a comfortable position, whether you choose to be seated or lay down on the floor. It doesn't matter, but just remember the idea here is to wake up to your experience. So start with a position where you feel alert and aware, but not stiff or rigid. Just take a moment to scan through your body and notice the places initially that are feeling tight or tense. Maybe there's some places that feel pleasurable. And maybe there are some places where you feel neutral. Just connecting in with your body and the three feeling tones of pleasurable, unpleasurable, and neutral. Take a moment to remember why you are embarking on this practice. Maybe it's so you can open to your pain and learn from it, or learn how to tend to yourself. Sometimes when we take time out to explore our pain, we find that there are ways that we can nurture ourselves. Maybe ways we have not considered. After all, if you aren't aware of what it is you need, how can you give it to yourself or ask another to support you? Or maybe for you, this practice is about honoring the memory of your loved one. Whatever your intention is for this meditation, speak it silently to yourself. And you can hold this aspiration throughout the practice, knowing that if you get distracted or want to run from the experience, you can always remember why you are here. And now turn your focus towards your breath and find the place in your body right now where your breath is most noticeable. Maybe it's somewhere around your nostrils or in your chest or belly. There's no right or wrong. And now allow yourself to take 5 full deep inhales, expanding your breath into your belly, your middle section, and your chest. And let your exhale be a complete letting go of breath. And let your breath be easy and natural. And consider a loss or losses that you have experienced recently, and maybe this is something that comes easily to the surface. Maybe it's something that never quite leaves. And notice how this loss feels in your body. How does it show up for you physically? And get curious about that physical sensation of loss. Notice its shape and size, the texture of it, the temperature. Maybe there's a color that you associate with your loss. Letting this be an embodied experience, a felt sensation. And you can use your breath as an anchor, so if you start to feel carried away by it, just come back and take a few of those full inhales and full exhales as you simultaneously explore the sensation in your body. How is my body responding to this loss? You don't have to figure out why this particular sensation is showing up, and you don't need to do anything with it other than bring some awareness to it. You may wish to bring some tenderness and compassion to that part of you by placing your hand on this place where you feel loss. And saying to yourself, may I be open to this pain. May I find the resources to support myself through this journey. So as you're simultaneously experiencing the sensation of grief in your body, sending some prayers of support and loving kindness to yourself, just as you would send them to a loved one who is experiencing this level of pain. May I know peace during this time. May my suffering be reduced. May I find peace and compassion in the love that I shared with my beloved. And if this becomes too overwhelming, coming back to breath, back to physical body. Experiencing the physical sensation, experiencing the breath, and simultaneously sending some tenderness your way. May I know peace. May I be free from suffering, or at least have my suffering reduced by my recognition of love. Creating space for your experience of loss so that you can explore it, but without having to become it. May I be willing to receive the love and support that others offer me. May I forgive myself and others for deeds that were harmful, whether they were conscious or unconscious. Now, if you have your hand placed over that tender and vulnerable spot, take a moment to really explore that connection between your hand and your body. Feel that physical touch. And thanking yourself for taking the time to experience what's really happening for you. Not turning away, but knowing that it's perfectly okay and even sane to give yourself a break from experiencing your grief. So perhaps setting the intention here as you move forward throughout your day and the rest of your grief journey to shift back and forth between tending to this vulnerable spot and giving yourself a break by focusing on your breath or on other relationships, finding that balance between moving back and forth between grief and life, recognizing that the two are coexisting at the same time. So honoring your experience, whatever it is. And now releasing your hands into your lap. Find your breath once again and take a few of those full, deep, expansive inhales, expansive exhales. And notice if this body in this moment has any wisdom or guidance for you. Now that you have taken the time out to explore your grief, what steps can you take to support yourself, to reduce the suffering, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental suffering? What is it that you need that you can either give yourself or ask from another? Maybe your action step is to meditate some each day, or get out into nature and take a few deep breaths, or have dinner with a friend, or maybe it's just to curl up and give yourself permission to cry. Whatever it is that you need, consider what would shift in your life if you were to take action on it, no matter how small. These little actions are doable and often bring about the biggest reduction in suffering over time. So consider how to tend to yourself. And when that feels complete, you can open your eyes and move and stretch your body, and it may be helpful to write down what your action plan is, or even take action on it right away. Whatever you do, maintain that tenderness towards yourself. May you be happy. May you know peace. May you be free from suffering. Namaste.